Good evening and welcome to the programme where once a month, instead of just hearing about crime, you can perhaps actually do something about them. As always, we're live and the detectives here from all around the country are waiting for your call. Here's the number you might need. It's 01 811 8055.
This month we've some advice about how not to have your car stolen, and 3 reconstructions. The cool car thieves who pose as friendly mechanics and persuade drivers to simply hand over their car keys. The fraudsters who conned a bank out of almost £250,000. Maybe you'll recognise a voice. And the murder of a girl who was hitchhiking home in Oxfordshire.
Well, first of all, some news of some previous cases. Last week, a 30-year-old labourer, Peter Sullivan, was jailed for the murder of Diane Sindel on Merseyside. After our reconstruction last September, a viewer called with information which led to his arrest and helped solve the case.
And last month's programme led to 4 arrests. After we reconstructed a wages snatch at Newcastle Central Station, a man was charged with the theft of a driving licence that we used to hire getaway cars for the raid. And over 50 viewers put names to 3 faces in our photo call.
Our viewers also helped to identify the owner of some camping gear we showed, which had been abandoned in Cornwall. Well, he's now known to be alive and well. And police now also know the name of this man, who they think could help them about a cheque obtained from a pensioner. Well, we'll have more news from last month's Crimewatch in our update programme later on tonight.
The first of this month's cases is a gigantic fraud. Now, fraud accounts, according to the police, for nearly £3 million worth of losses every single day. But generally, it's difficult for Crimewatch to reconstruct this sort of crime because, well, it's hard to show fraud and there are rarely points of public appeal. But in this case, one of the villains left behind an important clue. Our reconstruction begins in London's West End.
Just turned 13 minutes to 8, and the news headlines this morning. Iran says it has moved reinforcements into what it describes as sensitive positions.
Wednesday, the 5th of August, in Upper Brook Street in Mayfair. A large company of building construction engineers have an office here at number 34. They're called Wilmot Dixon. A contract cleaner was the only person in the office.
Good morning.
Can I help you?
I'm looking for Wilmot Dixon.
Sorry, what do you mean?
I work for John Wilmot. They're expecting me.
What, now?
Yes, now. Are you the cleaner?
Yes.
I'm looking for John Wilmot. I have a meeting here at 8 o'clock, okay?
Although the cleaner thought the man's behaviour was strange and aggressive, she assumed he was a genuine employee of the company. By 8 o'clock, the cleaner had finished her work. When she went home, the man was still inside, but now he was alone. At 8:30, a secretary arrived for work. The intruder was removing sheets from files. One bore the signatures of Peter Wilmot, the chairman, and John Bayliss, the company's secretary.
Can I help you?
I want to speak to Mr. Bayliss.
Who let you in?
The cleaners. I'm from the cleaners. My name is Yartu. I want to see Mr. Bayliss about changing the cleaning times from morning to evening.
Mr. Bayliss is away on holiday for 3 weeks.
Is there anyone else that can help me?
Perhaps Mr. Dixon. But he's in the flat upstairs and I don't know if I should disturb him.
Well, I can always call back later and see him.
Oh, OK. Well, let me see you to the door.
Fine.
Although she thought that the man's story was rather odd and later reported the incident to her boss, everything in the office appeared normal. No one realised documents and stationery were missing. The fraudsters were now in business. That afternoon, they made 2 important phone calls. The first was to a small city bank. The bank has a foreign exchange dealing room. For security reasons, all phone calls here are recorded. And what you're about to hear is the voice of one of the fraudsters.
Hello, yes, my name is John Bailey. Director Secretary of Wilmot. I want to buy German bonds.
You're a private customer, yes?
No, in fact, I'm not a customer of yours.
I see. What quantity of Deutschmarks do you require?
£236,000.
£236,000 worth? This is in banknotes you want them?
Yes.
And when do you want them for, sir?
Maybe Friday morning.
Friday. Okay. How would you propose
Well, how should I say?
Would you organise a banker's draft to be given to us?
That's no problem.
No problem. Good. Okay. Obviously, I don't know you. The best thing I would suggest is, could you come in and give us a banker's draft tomorrow?
Okay.
The second call that Wednesday afternoon was to Wilmot Dixon's Bank, the Midland, here in Hitchin, Hertfordshire. At about 4:30, the securities clerk received a call from someone claiming to be Peter Wilmot.
Yes, if you want to transfer a large sum of money from your account quickly, we can send a telegraphic transfer or we can issue a banker's draft. But I'm afraid it's too late to do either tonight. Any time after 9 o'clock in the morning, Mr. Wilmot. Right, I'll wait for your call in the morning. Good night.
It's 9 o'clock next morning, Thursday, the 6th of August.
Midland Bank Kitchen, good morning.
Brian Ward, please.
Convinced he was talking to the real chairman of Wilmot Dixon, the clerk agreed to prepare a banker's draft for £236,000. It was to be collected by a messenger who was to bring a letter of authority from Wilmot Dixon. He'd pick up the draft from the bank's branch in the centre of Hitchin. At 10:30, the messenger arrived.
I'm from Wilmot Dixon. You have a draft for me?
That's right.
The letter on Wilmot's notepaper had apparently been signed by Peter Wilmot and John Bayliss. In fact, both signatures were forged.
OK, wait me a minute, all right? OK, can you, just sign that for me, please?
Okay.
Just at the bottom there.
He signed in the name of Donald Ford, but police believe the same man then went straight to the city, pretending to be John Bayliss.
Hello?
Yes, it's Bayliss. I spoke to you.
You did indeed, yeah.
Okay, I'll come down to you now, if I may.
Yes, sure.
Really pushed for time. It's too late in the day to get this done now.
No, I'm afraid it's going to be tomorrow morning.
Okay, that's not a problem.
Okay?
Okay, I'll get the draft and get it down to you.
Here's the draft, and here's my card.
Thank you, Mr. Bayliss. Obviously, we'll have to get this authorised.
Right, I'm in a bit of a hurry because the car's on a yellow line outside, so I'll leave that with you. I'll see you first thing in the morning.
Later that afternoon, the Midland Bank confirmed the draft was genuine. It's Friday the 7th. By 9 o'clock that morning, the Deutschmarks were being prepared. By 9:30, the man who called himself John Bayliss was collecting the money.
And there's your receipt.
Thanks. Can you give me something to put these in?
Well, oh, I could let you have this.
Fine.
The fraudster walked away with over 690,000 Deutschmarks. The Midland Bank, who issued the original banker's draft, lost nearly £250,000. And taken away in a plastic carrier bag. Sergeant Colin Murray, what chance have you got of recovering the money or finding those men?
Well, all we need really is one telephone call.
Now, what do we know about the men? Obviously, they were seen by several people.
Yes, the first man, the man who went to both banks, is 40 to 45 years of age. He's 5'9" tall and of stocky build.
Now, this was the guy who left another clue, of course, because he left a signature for first the banker's draft and secondly when he received the money. Is that very distinctive? Somebody might recognise something from that, I suppose.
Yes, we believe it was the same man at both banks, and this was the signatures of the people who purported to be at both banks.
Now, what about the black man who stole the headed notepaper and the visiting cards?
He was a younger man, 30 to 35 years old. He's described as being from 5'6" to 5'9" tall, proportionately built. Both men were well dressed.
OK. Is that moustache real or is it false?
Well, there was 2 witnesses saw this person at the premises in London. One described him as with a moustache and one without.
Well, let's see what he looks like. There he is, if he didn't have a moustache. Which of those 2 men was it who made the phone calls, do you think? Or could it have been another conspirator?
Well, we believe that there may have been another conspirator. If not, we believe that the white man was the man that made the telephone call.
Now, that is quite a distinctive voice. Let's listen to that again. See if anyone can recognise it.
Hello, yes, my name is John Bayliss. John Bayliss, B-A-Y-L-I-S, Director and Secretary of Wilmot.
Now, obviously, that was done for the audit at a bank. It wasn't meant to be played on television. Nonetheless, you can hear some quite distinctive things in that. There's a reward out on this, isn't there?
Yes, there's a substantial reward. We're talking about thousands of pounds as opposed to hundreds for the right information that would lead to the arrest and a prosecution in this case.
That reward is put up by the Midland Bank. I should say, of course, anybody could have been the victim of this fraud, not just the Midland. Should also point out that we're all victims of this sort of fraud because we pay for it through our bank charges or through our insurance. So quite apart from the reward, if you can help in any way, please do. 01811 8055. That's 01811 8055. You can speak to a BBC researcher or to a detective, and of course it's all in strictest confidence. If you prefer, you can call Hertfordshire Police Headquarters at Welwyn Garden City. That's a direct line, 0707, the code for Welwyn Garden City, 335500.
And now to Incident Desk, where the police appeal to you directly. Tonight, a missing couple from Jersey, an attempted hijacking in Hertfordshire, and a vicious knife attack on Merseyside. With the details, here are Constable Helen Phelps and Superintendent David Hatcher.
First, we'd like your help with the mysterious disappearance of a middle-aged couple from Jersey. On October the 11th, Nicholas and Elizabeth Newell said goodbye to their sons at 3 o'clock in the afternoon after a birthday celebration for Mrs. Newell. They've not been seen since. When police were called to their house at St Brelard a week later, the central heating was on, there was food on the table, washing on the line, and the house was unlocked. Extensive land, sea and air searches have so far revealed nothing. We know they were planning a trip, their passports and car ferry ticket were left behind. The Newells have family connections in Scotland and a home in Spain. During August and September, they travelled to London, Scotland and the southwest of England, and we'd like to hear from anyone they visited. Look at them again, and also these 2 other photos of Mr. Newell. Please call us if you think you may have seen them or have had dealings with them in the recent past.
Next, we hope you might recognise this knife. It may help trace a man who assaulted 2 young girls in the Bootle and Seaforth area of Merseyside. On October the 14th, he left it behind after assaulting a 10-year-old girl on waste ground by the railway near Akenside Street, Bootle. 2 weeks later, on the 30th of October, an 11-year-old girl was collecting for Guy Fawkes night outside this shop in Seaforth. The man forced her to go with him to a block of flats in Sandy Road, where he assaulted her twice. The girls have helped compile this picture of him. He's between 20 and 30, and notice the unusual V-shaped hairstyle, possibly dark brown on top and very blonde on the sides. He may also have birthmarks on his arms and legs, and a tattoo on his left hand with the words "I love" above a heart shape. Do ring us if you know him.
An armed gang caused a serious road accident in Hertfordshire on October the 20th when they tried to stop a Securicor van near the village of Cuffley. The Securicor vehicle was forced to halt in a line of traffic and then rammed by a white Ford Transit, which then carried on, hitting 2 other cars and injuring an elderly lady. At first, the Securicor driver thought there'd been an ordinary accident until he noticed men with guns running towards him. Despite the damage to his van, he was able to drive away and the suspects fled empty-handed. Notice the steel battering ram built into the side of the Transit. It had been disguised with a white tarpaulin. The van had been stolen a few weeks before, along with these red and white Sierras. These false number plates were possibly made in the same car accessory shop. Maybe you work in one and remember dealing with them. So if you can help in any way, ring us.
Finally, Christmas seems to have come early for thieves in the southeast. Last month, 2 entire lorry loads of imported toys worth over £90,000 were pinched. Nearly 1,000 of these Clodbuster radio-controlled toy trucks were stolen from a dockside lorry compound in Felixstowe on October the 27th. They were the first consignment to arrive in Britain, though more are due to arrive soon, and come in kit form boxed up like this. Normally they would be on sale for around £150. And you might come across these teddies. A lorry load of almost 3,000 of them disappeared from Swanley in Kent on the 19th of October. The lorry trailer was later seen being dumped by two men in Verco Road, south east London. They also had with them a white Ford Escort Mark III model. We think the toys may surface before Christmas, so if you've seen any of the bears or those trucks, ring us now.
If you think you can provide any possible new lead, please do ring 01811 8055. That's 01811 8055.
According to police figures, over 1.5 million cars were stolen or broken into last year. That's one car every 20 seconds. A third of those which are stolen are never recovered. In fact, a new Jaguar or a BMW can be worth as much to a thief as a raid on a building society. Over the past 6 months in London, police have been piecing together a series of thefts, all of which have a very similar technique and all of which involve Mercedes. Our reconstruction starts near Sloane Square in Chelsea in southwest London. 8:30 in the morning. Mrs. Susan Parvey was about to drive out to the country to visit a friend when she noticed her car had an oil leak. She managed to drive to a nearby garage, where she had it temporarily fixed. At about 9:15, two men were seen pushing an old brown car into Cadogan Place, stopping outside an antique shop opposite Mrs. Parvey's house.
Where's the nearest garage to here?
Just over in Sloane Avenue.
Thanks.
Mr. Riley, the shop owner, talked to both of them.
Have you got a problem with your car?
Yeah, not to worry though. Got plenty of time.
He noticed that the older man wore a lot of gold jewellery.
Playing golf with my governor later.
You play golf? Where?
Sutton.
At about 9:30, Mrs. Parvey was back from the garage and cleaning the wheel of her car, which had been covered in oil.
Everything all right?
I've had some kind of oil leak.
Ah. I've got a mechanic coming in a minute. It's a mate of mine. We work in a shop over in Streatham. He'll put it right for you.
After a few minutes, the mechanic returned.
Garage was closed.
He seemed more interested in Mrs. Parvey's problem than his friend's.
Do you want me to take a look at your car?
No, it's okay. It's fixed.
Well, it's still losing some oil. I'll take a look anyway.
Okay.
Nah, it's not being fixed properly. It'll need an olive. If you get the part, I'll fix it for you.
No. It's all right.
My mate will drive you to a garage.
Well, if it's not too much trouble.
No, it's no trouble at all. If you just leave me the car key.
Oh.
I won't need the house keys.
Oh.
Just the car key.
Okay.
Thanks.
When he'd finished working on the brown car, the mechanic wrote out the Mercedes chassis number and the exact name of the part she needed.
Well, that'll do it.
Before she'd got into the brown car, Mrs. Parvey noticed a bag of tools on the back seat. The man drove her to several garages without success, and finally to a service station at the far end of Chelsea's King's Road.
They're not likely to have it.
Well, it's your last chance. You might as well have a go.
Then the man drove away, leaving Mrs. Parvey stranded. Back at Cadogan Place, the mechanic had finished his work.
Oh, I think I'll fix the car. I'll just take it round the block, see if it's okay.
Mrs. Parvey's Mercedes hasn't been seen since. What had seemed at first an isolated incident soon became an elaborate pattern. Since April, 6 more Mercedes have gone missing, and the gang have perfected their routine. On October the 8th, Mr. and Mrs. Karim had parked their car on the embankment near Waterloo Bridge. They returned an hour later, just before 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The car started, but wouldn't move. It was the same problem, a leaking pipe. And, just as before, it wasn't long before help was at hand.
Excuse me, sir. Do you know where the nearest police station is?
Yeah, oh, go over
The man's friendly question put Mr. Karim off his guard.
What's happened to your car, mate?
I wish I knew.
Tell you what, I've broken down myself about 6 parking metres away. I've called a mechanic. Do you want him to come have a look at yours?
Yeah, thanks. That's great.
The basic method was the same, but the men were more careful. They only let the Karims see them together once.
Well, I'm sorry to tell you, the thread on the end of the pipe has gone. Really, you're going to need a new pipe and some oil. If you want to go and get another one, I can replace it for you.
All right.
You'll need the chassis number.
And this time, to avoid leaving oily fingerprints, the mechanic didn't write down the chassis number himself.
242F 094708. Is it central locking?
Yes, it is.
Oh, would you like to leave the keys with me? When I finish the other car, I'll come back and take the pipe out for you, so it'll be ready when you get back.
All right.
Okay, see you later.
Again, the part was difficult to get. And when the Karims came back, about 20 minutes later, the car was gone. Now, in case you're wondering, this is what an olive is. It's simply a sort of linking piece for a pipe. This is a small one. We couldn't get the right size because, as the thieves found, we found also, it's very difficult to get. Do you think Rory MacLeod is in charge of looking for the thieves? Do you think the fact that it's a difficult part to get was part of the plan, in fact?
Well, yes, it was quite early in the evening when most of these crimes were committed, so most of the shops would be closed. So we believe that this would be giving time to the suspects to take the vehicles away for whatever reason.
These seem quite elaborate lengths to go to just to steal cars.
Well, Mercedes are normally very difficult cars to break into, and they were obviously trying to obtain the keys to the car, and that's the best way to do it.
But why particularly Mercedes?
Well, the high value of the vehicles, and also the fact that the first 4 vehicles were left-hand drive, so we believe that these were actually stolen to order and then exported.
Now, what do these men look like? We have 2 video fits. We start with the older man with the jewellery.
Well, the first one, he's about 5'10", approximately 40 years of age and a proportionate build. He's got brown hair, which most of the time is swept back, but the most identifying part of him is the fact that he's got quite a lot of jewellery on his hands. He may also be called John, and he's got an East London accent.
What about the second man, the one who pretends to be a mechanic?
The second one, he's about 6 foot tall, about 30 years of age, and very slim compared to the other gentleman. But the most distinguishing mark of him, or identifying feature of him, is his ginger hair. It's quite noticeable. He also has a birthmark on his right-hand side of his neck, which most of the time he covers with the collar turned up of his overalls or coat.
They change their appearance a bit, don't they, to try and fool people?
Yes, each time they wear a different colour overalls, or the mechanic does. They also have different types of vehicles with them each time, and this would presume to the fact that they could well be mechanics or have access to second-hand vehicles.
Or you think perhaps the first man is a plumber?
The first man we believe may be a plumber, mainly because the tool's in the back of the car, and also the fact that he mentioned that a plumber may have one of these olives.
Now you know now of 8 of these Mercedes have been stolen in exactly the same way. In fact, one you heard of yesterday. He was too embarrassed to come forward until now. It was stolen in August. So you need more people to come forward.
Yes, please. If anybody has had their car stolen in the same way or by the same people, any type of car, please come forward to tell us. Everybody else was shy about it. Please tell us. And also we'd like to know especially who these 2 men are.
Right. Well, in fact, if you have any information, the number to ring is 01811 8055 here live in the studio. Or you can call an officer on the crime desk in Chelsea, and the number for that is 01741 6185 or 6186. That's 01741 6185 or 6186.
If you want to protect your car from theft, there's one deterrent that comes free with every model. So don't forget to use them, always. But this car from Leicestershire Police is loaded with simple gadgets that are easy to fit but make it very hard to steal. You can fit an alarm, of course. They cost about £15 and they're the best way to deter thieves from taking your car or stealing things from it. Engraving the windows with the car registration, that's a good deterrent to some thieves, but it won't stop joyriders. A good old-fashioned crook lock is still one of the best ways to stop a car being driven away. And this is a marvellous device, a combination lock on the handbrake. It costs about £12. You can fit it yourself, and there are no keys to lose. Even if the thieves don't take the car itself...
Golfs, Porsches, Minis and Ferraris. The thieves operate to exactly the same market demands as a legitimate trade, the only difference being that the thieves have a better profit margin. The public need to be more suspicious. When they go to buy a motor car, they've already bought it from reading the advertisement. They need to think like a policeman. Look at this one, for example. Here you have a very desirable car. Top of the range, full specification, but it's not quite what it seems. The back end of the car, right up to here, is from a write-off, the front end of which was demolished. The front end is from a stolen car, and the thieves have joined it down this line here. This one's been very neatly done. The stamped-in chassis numbered only goes for the rear half of the car, but it's been doctored to look as if it goes for the entire vehicle. Sometimes it's quite easy to catch the villains out by checking the chassis plate. Now look at this manufacturer's chassis plate. It's been taken off a wrecked car and put onto this stolen car. There's clear evidence it's been tampered with, and you can see the buckling and interference to the plate. And some are split and scored like this one. Remember, the stamped-in chassis number is the car's unique identity. Another place you'll find it is on the doorpost here. The stamped-in chassis number is not hidden underneath all the mechanics in here. It's somewhere obvious. For example, on this model, it's at the rear of the engine compartment here. Another common location is in the rain gutter at the back of the engine compartment, as on this Metro. Even then, you need to read that number off against the logbook. Thieves can disguise this. Some are quite crude, as on this Sierra. Here you can see the floor has been cut away and a false plate stuck on top of the original location. Some involve cutting out a whole chunk of the bodywork with the stamped-in chassis number and transposing another number from a different vehicle. It really is worth checking your car out properly when you buy it. Otherwise, if it's stolen, the police or Swansea will pick it up, and it could well end up in here.
If you have any information about the whereabouts of stolen cars or anyone who steals cars, do please call us. The number 01811 8055.
Now to Photocall, television's version of the Wanted poster. Here are David Hatcher and Helen Phelps again.
First, do you recognise these men? On the 4th of September, they forced their way into a jeweller's on Ilford Lane, East London. Staff at the shop were tied up and forced to lie on the floor. The men took £76,000 worth of cash and jewellery and threatened a policeman on their way out. A shot was fired, but luckily no one was hurt. Look at them again. If you've seen them, call us now.
Avon and Somerset police want to identify two men. This two-camera video shows the first of them, chequebook in hand, at the Thomas Cook Bureau de Change at Marble Arch in London's West End. He was joined a few minutes later by this second man. We believe that these men may have information relating to a burglary involving a violent attack on a woman. It took place on the 16th of last month near Shepton Mallet in Somerset. Ring us if you can name either of them.
And do you know this man who has stolen £16,000 in a series of raids across London? Here he is attempting to rob a building society in Knightsbridge on the 31st of July. He didn't get anything here, but the same man took £1,300 at another building society in Islington last month. And we now think he's responsible for at least 10 other raids over the past 3 months, 4 within minutes of each other on the same day. Take a close look at him. He's 6 foot, slim, and in his early 20s. He sometimes wears dark glasses and carries a plastic bag which may contain a gun. So if you've seen him or know him, or any of the other faces we've shown, ring us now.
And the number, as always, is 01811 8055. Your call will be in confidence. It's 01811 8055.
Let me just tell you, we're already getting some results in tonight on the search for the Jersey couple. We mentioned an incident death, a couple had gone missing. Well, the man has been seen apparently in North London. The Clodbuster radio-controlled toy trucks have been seen on sale in East London and in Essex. And we've got several names now for people who are said to have been involved in that fraud in Hertfordshire. We'll bring you more news as soon as we get it. The last of this month's reconstructions is yet another that highlights the dangers of hitchhiking. Now, young people, especially young women, of course, know the risks of hitchhiking. But the truth is, if you don't have a bike or a car and there are no buses where you want to go when you want to go, the temptation to hitch is overwhelming. Rachel Partridge took that risk. She was 17 years old. Our reconstruction starts on Tuesday, the 25th of August, near her home in Oxfordshire. This is the village of Chinner, just off the M40 and some 10 miles from High Wycombe. Rachel had just started an apprenticeship there at Rowan's Dental Laboratory. She joined the firm straight from school, and they were very impressed with her ability and hard work. Rachel lived with her parents in the countryside at Chinner Hill, a mile from Chinner village. At 17, she was the youngest of the family. Her two elder sisters had left home.
Oh, it's really lovely. I can't wait.
That Tuesday evening, after work, as she did most evenings, Rachel went to see her boyfriend. They'd met at school, and in 3 days' time were due to go on their first holiday together in Italy.
I picked up your passport from your mum the other
Did you?
day. Mm-hmm.
What's it look?
Well,
I've got yours as well. Let me
That's
see.
all
Let me
right.
see. Oh, that'll be Mum. I better not keep her waiting.
OK.
I'll give you a ring later, OK? Bye.
Bye-bye. Though Rachel's mother had specially driven down to the village to bring her home, Rachel announced that she had other plans that night.
Mum, can you take me to Alex's? I want to use a sunbed.
No, I can't tonight, Rachel. Your father needs a car for a meeting.
But she's expecting me.
I can't help that. Your father needs the car now.
Rachel couldn't be persuaded. She didn't want to go home, and there wasn't time to drive her to her friends in Thame. So her mother turned around and, at Rachel's request, left her back in the village. Once there, Rachel met a colleague from work and cadged a lift to Thame to use her friend's sunbed.
Right, that's on. Remember, it's only 10 minutes.
Only 10? Oh, I don't want to be all white and horrible on the beach.
If it's any longer than that, you're going to be all red and horrible.
After using the sunbed, Rachel had the problem of getting home. Her boyfriend heard she was somewhere in Thame and knew there were no buses back, so he went to look for her. Ironically, he drove right past the road where Rachel was. Rachel had no way home now except to hitch a lift.
Slightly, yes.
Oh, no. How near have I got?
Well, you'll get them when you get tanned anyway.
Oh, thanks for the sunbed.
That's all right.
Take care. I'll send you a postcard.
Right. Have a good time.
I will.
Bye.
15 minutes later, at 5 to 9, Rachel was seen by a motorist thumbing a lift just past the railway bridge on the Chinner Road. She was walking in the direction of her home. The Chinner Road is a busy one, and moments later she was seen again by a couple who were driving slowly, looking for an address. They turned round at the Garden City roundabout, and as they drove back up the road, they noticed a parked van. They think it was white, and only one headlamp seemed to be working properly. The hitchhiker was talking to the driver. Just after 9, another motorist saw Rachel standing on the grass verge of the Garden City roundabout. This is the outskirts of Thame. Beyond this point, there are no streetlights. Rachel was frightened of the dark, and there were 6 miles of black country lanes between Rachel and her home at Chinner Hill. Back in Chinner, her boyfriend was ringing round to find where Rachel was. She'd promised to call him, but it was now 10:30. When he found she still wasn't at home, he began to worry.
Hello, I'm trying to reach my girlfriend Rachel. She said she...
Eventually, he found the friend's number in Thame and rang to see if she was there. She wasn't.
Is Alex in? No. Did Alex's note say which pub she was going to? All right, the Three Horseshoes at Towersey. Yes, I know that.
Stephen drove to Towersey and checked the pub, but the girls weren't there. He drove on into Thame, but at 11 o'clock, he gave up looking. Next morning, 7 miles from Thame and 2.5 miles from Rachel's home lies Bledlow Ridge. A small track runs from the road to Callowdown Farm. Back in August, these hedgerows were overgrown and the fields were full of ripened corn. At 11:40, 2 farm workers saw someone lying in the corner of the barn. They discovered the naked body of a young woman. There was blood around her head and neck. Rachel had been struck heavily on the face, sexually assaulted and asphyxiated. The man who's seeking Rachel's killer is Roy Payne. How can people help?
We need anyone who travelled along the road from Thame in Oxfordshire to Bledlow Ridge, which is just over the border in Buckinghamshire, who may have given Rachel a lift that night or who saw her being given a lift by anybody else. We need them to contact us.
Now, it's difficult to think back to Tuesday the 25th of August. It was the last Tuesday before August Bank Holiday, wasn't it? Now, there was that white van that we saw at Garden City roundabout that had stopped there. Have you traced anybody to do with that yet?
No, that is another vehicle which we are trying to trace. It will be seen it had a defective offside headlamp. The driver spoke to Rachel. We need to trace the driver and find out what the conversation was about.
Right, and eliminate him, of course.
And eliminate him from the
now,
inquiry.
remind us where this is. For people who don't know the area very well, it's on the B4445 from Thame to Chinner, and her body, of course, was found in the barn. Now, tell us that's where she left from Thame, heading towards her home just outside Chinner. Now, that's where she was found. Was anyone seen around that barn?
At the moment, we are trying to establish and trace anyone that has any connection with the barn or who may have visited the barn. And about 3 weeks prior to the murder, during the early hours of the morning, a small white Ford Fiesta was seen leaving that area, driven by a young man who's described as being about 20 years of age, 6 feet tall, athletic build, with long dark hair. That is an artist's impression of him. He has been seen previously in the Chinner area when he'd been dressed very dark clothing and a gold-coloured necklace with a very large gold-coloured cross upon it.
Now, you've brought the most extraordinary thing here. Sorry, may I reach across you?
Certainly.
This is a plaster cast that was found in the barn. It doesn't look terribly realistic as a foot, of course, because it is a cast of a moving foot. What do you know about the size?
This is actually a reconstruction of what we believe the foot looked like that made the mark we found. It's a minimum size, 8 to 8.5 G fitting, very large, wide foot. The foot is believed to be made by a man, and if that's the case, because of the width, he may well have taken a size 10 upwards in shoes.
You also found, just so people know, some tyre tracks of a particularly distinctive sort of tyre. What was the make of it?
It's a Lee Conquest, which is an economy tyre. Some of the tracks outside were made by a tyre of this description, and we need to trace anyone that's visited the barn who has any of those tyres fitted to vehicles.
There's an appeal fund being set up by the local community. It's already reached several £1,000s. Please do call us if you can help right now. Here's the number, 01811 8055, 01811 8055, or you can dial the incident room at Aylesbury. 0296 is the code for Aylesbury, 395010.
And if you'd rather not phone, you can write to us on any of tonight's cases at Crimewatch UK, BBC TV, London W12 HQT, or contact your local police, and all the relevant phone numbers are on CFAX on page 186.
That's all for this month. We'll be back on Tuesday, December the 8th. That's our new regular day, the second Tuesday of the month. But results are still coming in from tonight. As you can see behind me, the phones are still ringing there, and we'll bring you those results in an hour and a half. That's Crimewatch Update at 10 to 12, and at 10 to 12 tomorrow morning, we'll have more news on Open Air on BBC One. If you can't wait up to watch through George Segal and Goldie Hawn, the movie that follows, don't forget, do lock your car up and do sleep well. Good night.
Good night.